Clasp is an open source tool created by Google that allows you to develop and deploy Google Apps Script projects right from your terminal. Now this is great because you can now use your favorite IDE to code in, use revision control, and it makes team development so much easier. In this video, we're going to go over a simple yet powerful create, pull, push, and deploy workflow that I use in my day-to-day. Note this video is aimed at Mac users. Okay, so let's get started. Now, as Clasp is written in Node.js, you're going to need version 4.7.4 or later of Node installed. If you haven't already got that, head over to the Node.js website and follow the instructions there. Once you've done that, we can install Clasp. So firstly, let's head over to Google's documentation on the tool. And what we're looking for here is the installation command. And this looks like the one. So if we copy and we paste that and we hit enter, that's going to use npm to install Clasp. And with the -G, it will make sure it's available globally from anywhere within your terminal. Okay, if we run this command, let that install. Great. Now with that done, to confirm everything went smoothly, simply type in Clasp at the terminal. If you see all those commands, good job, Clasp is now installed. Now, before we delve any deeper into what you can actually do with Clasp, we first need to log in via one of our Google accounts. Now, the account that you choose here, this will now be associated with any projects that are created via the Clasp tool. So back at the terminal, simply type in Clasp login. Your browser will then be redirected to a sign-in page at Google. Choose the account you want to use. Verify that you want to give access to the Clasp tool to your Google account. And you're logged in. Close the page. And as simple as that. Now, before we get started with our demo project, where we go through the workflow, you may first need to enable the Google Apps Script API toggle. So firstly, if we head to our Google Apps Script dashboard. Now from here, if we go down to settings, if yours is on, you're fine. If not, click here and then click the toggle. Done. Okay, to get started with this workflow, we're going to need a project. Now within Clasp, you can either create a new project from scratch or you can clone an existing one. We're going to cover both ways. But first, let's create a new project from within Clasp. So let's create a demo folder and go into it. Now, once you're in your folder, we're going to use the Clasp create command, and all we need to provide there is a project name. And hit enter. Excellent. We've now created a standalone script project. To verify the project actually does exist, there's two things you can do. We can either run the Clasp list command, and this shows us our newly created project, or we can actually open the new project within the Google Apps Script dashboard. I simply type in Clasp, open. And as you can see, there's our new project. Okay, now we know how to create new projects from scratch. Let's run through the process of cloning an existing project. In this situation, we're going to clone an existing container-bound script, but this process would equally apply to a standalone script project as well. Now, I've already gone ahead and created an existing sheet here. So if we go into that, we want to then access the script editor for the actual file. Now, to clone an existing project, we need the project script ID. This can be found under File, Project Properties, Info, and Script ID. So if we copy that, and then back into the terminal, we're going to create a new folder and then clone that project into it. Once we're in the new folder, we're going to use Clasp's clone command and give it the script ID. Sweet, and it's as easy as that. So now we've covered two ways of handling new projects or existing projects in Clasp. What we're now going to do is continue on from this Clasp container demo and use that to run through the workflow. Okay, we're now going to cover pulling and pushing updates locally from the machine up into the cloud. Now, back in our Clasp container demo, we're going to make some changes here and I'm going to pull these down locally. So here's some code I've prepared earlier. The variable is going to be stored in a new scripts file. I'm going to call this utils names. Get rid of the existing code. And we're going to introduce an intentional typo here. Save that. Now, if we run this function, view the logs, just as we suspected, there is a typo. But first, let's pull these down to our local machine first. Firstly, verify that these changes don't exist just yet. Good. Now we're going to use the clasp pull command, and this will pull all the changes down locally. Verify the changes exist. Excellent. Okay, great. Now that's pulling down changes. What if we want to push up changes? So let's fix the typo. Save that. Now if we use clasp's push command, all changes will be pushed up to the cloud. Now if we go back into our cloud editor and confirm that, let's run the function. See the logs. Excellent. Now you may notice that it's still saying, if we go here, my name is actually still Pan, but we know it isn't. What you may have to do is close it, the file. And if you reopen it, you'll see the changes reflected. But as you see when we've seen the logs, as soon as you've hit push from your local machine, the changes are up there. Now, before we cover the last part of this workflow, I'd just like to point out at this stage in the process that it might be worth following the following guidelines when using Clasp. 1, use a version control system if you don't already, like Git. It's fantastic. And 2, do not concurrently edit code both locally and remotely. Choose either or. Personally, my workflow is edit locally, version your changes using Git, and then push to the cloud. Now, this last part of the workflow involves deployment. So to deploy, firstly, we need to use clasp's version command, and we pass it a title as the parameter. So let's do that. So clasp version, and we'll call this 1.0. Now, what you've created there is an actual snapshot that can't be changed. So any new changes going forward will have to have their own snapshot created. Now, if we go back into the cloud editor, we can see this new snapshot we just created here. The next stage is the clasp deploy command. Now, what this does is this takes your versioned snapshot and allows you to deploy it using your project manifest file. Now, that's out of the scope of this video, but I will be providing some resource in the description for you to look further into that. So back into your terminal, you type in the clasp deploy. Now what we need here is the version number, which is 1, and a description. So we'll just call it first version. Hit enter. Excellent. Now if we go back into the cloud editor, we can see this deployment. We go up to publish, deploy from manifest, and there we have it. Well done. You now know how to create, clone, pull, push, and deploy using Clasp. I hope you've enjoyed this skill up video, and if you'd like me to cover any other topics around Google Apps Script, please let me know in the comments below. Also, if you want to learn more about Google Apps Script development, and in particular how to create and launch your own add-on to the world, along with how to monetize it, check out my website danielpedder.com and sign up to my Google Apps Script series, where I'll take you from zero to hero in no time.